Today, we're going to do a class to explore how we can use a belt. And I'm going to show you a few belts that I have. And they sell yoga belts all over the place these days. So it's not so difficult or expensive to find one. It's just that there's different kinds and they serve different purposes. I'll start with giving you a little demonstration of certain belts, and then we'll go ahead and have a class where we devote ourselves to exploring the belt, using belts in yoga practice and how that can help you either manage to get into postures or extend a posture or maybe intensify a posture. You can also sometimes use a towel if you need to, but you might also have something else in your house that you can use that's similar to a yoga belt. So enjoy. So the three different kinds of yoga belts I have are, this one's sort of a traditional, just white, sort of fairly thin. I guess it would be better if I stood up so you can see how long they are in relationship to how tall I am. So this is probably, 5 feet or something. And then this very thick one is even longer, and I've got a circle in it. And this used to work really well. It's very thick, so it's different than some of the thinner ones. And so I got these from Hugger Mugger years ago because I wanted some long belts, and I'll show you why long belts are useful for some poses. And then I found out about these. They also came from Hugger Mugger, and you can see they're equally long, so more like 6 or 7 feet, but they're thinner, and they might be linen or there's some kind of thinner cotton. And so they've got their use. And I'm just going to show you one thing before we start that's very useful with a belt like this. So when you're trying to, you have shoulder issues, and especially this is something you can do sitting at the computer, is you just take it behind you. So it's like on my bra strap line, and then you pull it over your shoulders, and then you cross it in front of you so that you've got it like so, and then you get this reminder in the body of wait a minute, I goofed up with this. Hold on a second. Let me undo this. So you drop it down and then you cross it over. That's what I forgot to do. It's much tighter this way. And then you string it through, and it gives you this brace almost to remind where your shoulders should be in place. And so I just wanted to show you that that's one of the reasons one of these thinner ones is a really nice option, because this one just won't fit. Like you'll start it and it'll go down like this, but then it will cross over, but it won't reach in front. So it can become this wonderful little harness to kind of remind you to keep the front shoulders open, rolling down, especially if you do a lot of work at the computer, because there is this tendency to roll forward. So, and I might try different things with various belts today, but I'll just start with us. I've opened the belt up now, but I'll just start with us laying down with the feet parallel and the knees up. And then if you wrap the belt around, and this is where a belt's length doesn't matter, you can inhale, stretch the arms overhead, using that belt to really lengthen through the arms, and exhale, and you can bring the hands down to the thighs, and inhale, lengthen the arms, and exhale, bring it down. You want a little bit more of a challenge, you can press up and come into a little bit of a bridge pose, and then exhale, coming down. Inhale, bringing the arms up, and then exhale, coming down. And then you can have a belt here to start with. Actually, what's nice is you can place the belt right on the thigh sockets when you inhale and extend the legs up. Now what this helps to remind your outer thighs to roll down. So, and you get a little arm work here by doing that. And then it also really presses the lower back to the floor. So it's just giving yourself a little bit of feedback using the belt. You know, otherwise a teacher could come around and just place the belt here. Now, if you can only lift your legs up, you know, a little bit lower, that's okay too. You still have that same action. And then what if you put the belt around the feet when you do this pose? So you press it up, and then when you bend the feet down, you still hold the belt in your hand. And then you inhale. So this way you can really pull the knees towards, or the thighs towards the chest. Inhale up. Exhale, you can really pull those thighs towards the chest. Exhale down. We'll do 2 more. Inhale up. Exhale. Bring down. Inhale up. Exhale down. So you can see with these ones we're doing, the belt doesn't have to necessarily be that long. So for the next pose, press the feet up so you're opening the backs of the knees here. Now, if you need to bring the legs lower, you can, but don't bring them towards the face at the moment, because what we're trying to do is have that 90-degree angle and really have straight arms here. So you can feel how as you engage the legs and you engage the arms, you're actually, you know, getting a little heat in the body. So now leave the right foot in the belt and then exhale the left leg down. And again, if you have difficulty keeping this leg straight, just bring it a little bit lower. Because what you're trying to do is really press the opposite leg into the floor. And you're getting a little abdominal work in that left side abdominal. And then inhale that leg back up to the belt. And again, really pressing through the balls of the feet. And then exhale the right leg down. So the toes are up to the ceiling. You're really pressing this leg to the floor, holding the belt with this leg. And then inhale that leg up. And then bend the knees down and roll to your side. Gently come up. And we'll do a little bit of boat pose, which is another nice way to use the belt. But we'll start not with the belt, we'll start with the hands first. So inhale, bring those thighs to the chest. Actually, Never mind, since we have a belt, we might as well do it this way. So we'll bring the belt under the edge of the thigh. So not under the knees, but under the edge of the thigh that is close to the back of the knee. And then you can bring that shins parallel to the floor. And then you're just rolling those shoulder blades down. So there's something, you can be working your biceps here as well. And then slowly bring the feet down. And we'll just have a little release here by crossing the right foot over and walking the hands out. Just to release those thigh sockets, and you'll get a little bit of stretch in the hips. And then for the second one, again, bring the belt under the lower part of the thighs, and then extend the legs this time. See if you can find that balance. Of course, if you need to be a little bit lower, you can be a little bit lower. And then come on down and cross the other leg with a little bit of release in the thighs, fronts of the thigh sockets, hips. And then for the next one, of course, we bring it around the balls of the feet. And again, bring those legs parallel to the floor, those shins, and then see if you can slowly straighten the legs. Again, you can bring them down if you need to. And I'm just going to show you on the next pose what you can do with the bigger belts. The next variation. And then bend the knees in, bring it down, cross the legs over, and release. And see, this is another way of having a longer belt. You take the belt around your bottom of your shoulder blades, and this time you have to hook it in. And this is where the shorter belts won't work, but this big belt would work. And this way, see, I can extend my feet in it, and it really holds me here. I might need it just a little bit tighter. But the idea is it helps you be even in this pose and can really help you find the pose and work into the pose. Kind of need it up higher on my shoulder blades. So it does take a little doing to get here, but it's really nice to do this pose when you've got a longer belt. And this is where this particular belt is really useful. And then do one more, just release in those thigh sockets and in those hips. And again, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but everything's worth a try. And I'm not sure how long the belt needs to be, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to try to do a downward dog where the belt is around my shoulder blades, but it's also around my feet. So it brings my feet together, and it's probably not a long enough downward dog. Maybe I need to make my belt a little bit longer. So you can see some of this stuff is tricky to get into without a person in your house to hold you there. But what I like about this is I'm getting that pressure in my shoulder blades and working my legs is pressing my shoulder blades away. It reminds me of the action that my shoulder blades need to move up towards my pelvis. And then just bend the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. And inhale, slowly come up. And just come without a belt into a downward facing dog. And then walk the feet towards the hands. Just have a few breaths here. And then slowly roll up the spine. And I'm going to take the belt. This is where having a shorter belt can work. Shorter belt can really work here. And you can place it right on your wrists so your palms face each other. And then inhale the arms overhead. Exhale them down. And inhale them up. And I don't know if you can feel how using that perhaps gives you a little more lift in the side body. And exhale down. And of course, this is where, obviously, like I said earlier, you can have a smaller belt. Now inhale the arms up. And then go into powerful pose, Utkatasana. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale the arms down to Tadasana. So we'll do a couple of rounds of this. Inhale the arms up. Exhale into Utkatasana. Inhale to Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale to Tadasana. We'll do two more like this. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, Utkatasana. Inhale up. Exhale down. I don't know about you, but I can feel my upper arms really working here. Inhale up. Exhale down. And of course, your arms can be a little more forward if you have trouble. And then inhale, arms up. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Tadasana. So that's a little standing warm up. Now we're going to do some standing poses, and I'll show you a few options, especially if you've got the shorter belt. With the shorter belt, we're going to have the legs wide here, and then turn, I guess I could do mirror image, turn the right foot forward. So this is my left foot. But one option with the shorter belt is to hold, bring the belt around the front thigh, and then, I got my other belt caught. Anyway, so you're using the left arm to really bring the sit bone underneath you, and then bringing that, getting a bit of shoulder work. But meanwhile, you're really using the power in those legs. So that's one option. So if that's going to work for you. Another option is bringing, if you had a longer belt, you could place belt around the upper thigh. Then you step through, I'll have to make this a little wider. You step through that belt and ground it, and then you come forward in it. Now, this starts to loosen up, so sometimes you have to tighten the belt here. And it does the same exact thing that holding this does. So whichever option you have, just do that option. And then inhale, slowly come up. If you have the foot caught in there, you have to take it off one leg, come to the other, and then bringing that foot out. And the issue with triangle, doing this way with the belt, just means it feels less tight up at the top and loosens up as you go down. With the other option, you place it around the thigh. So I'm sort of doing both options, and you use that arm to bring you there. A couple of breaths here. And then inhale, slowly come up, bring the feet parallel. And then you can come back into Tadasana just for a couple of breaths, because we're going to do a couple of standing poses this way, and we'll just see how you go with it. So, if you've got the long belt option, and I'll be using both belts just so you know which options you have with whatever belt you're using. So if you've got the one belt that's longer and you want to go into Warrior Two this way, where you really bend, the other option is holding the belt around the thigh, and this time you're really pressing it down low. You're pulling that thigh down low, and you can bring the top arm up. And then slowly come up. And of course, it's a little awkward when you have to change sides, but it's still possible. Again, if you're using just the smaller belt, you're pulling the front thigh down with the back hand. The front arm can come up into Warrior Two pose. So using the belt is helping really in this bend area and getting that sit bone underneath you. Because sometimes the tendency is to flip the sit bone out. And as soon as that happens, the torso goes offline. So then bring the feet back, and we'll come and stand in Tadasana for a few breaths. It does give you a little bit of a workout, I'd say. I can feel my heart beating. Then we'll go into Pajbakonasana this way. And again, I'll do both options. So with the other belt, I'm really pulling that sit bone underneath. With the foot, I can really bend deep, really ground it with the back foot. Now you can have that foot more on the ball or on the heel of your foot, depending on your leg, what you want to feel here. And then inhale, slowly come up, and the feet parallel. And then we'll go to the other side. Sometimes these things feel a little bit, awkward and just harder to get into, or it takes a little more time. But once you get there, You may want to really stay there and explore it. What does it really feel like? Do I feel well supported or not? Or does it feel really awkward? Or for me, I feel well supported. And also I'm getting a bit more workout with my arms. I can really feel that. And then bring the feet parallel back to Tadasana for a couple of breaths. Now the next pose is going to be a little bit awkward, so we'll have some modifications, and I'll show you why. It's a great pose to do with the belt this way, where it's on the ball of your feet in this case. Let's see if I can get the ball. If not, you could still bring the other belt here. It's just a little more awkward, but we're going to do Ardha Chandrasana, so it's helpful if you've got a block. If not, you can hold onto the furniture and bring that foot up, or you can bring the hand down. But doing it this way gives me a sense of security. That's why I really like it, because I can really press the top foot into the belt and then bringing that foot down and come up. Because the balance is in that top leg, really pressing into that belt gives me a real solidity in the pose. I feel really balanced. So I'm just kind of showing you that you can do this. You may feel awkward about it and that it's hard to do. But the other option, of course, is holding that belt. And, you know, you can just sort of inch the foot in. It might feel a little bit awkward. It's easier to bring the hand down and then press into that foot. I'm losing my balance, but let me try that again. So I'm inching that leg in, pressing it up. Bending the front leg, coming back to the legs wide. Now, for the next pose, you can just, depends on how long your belt is or what you want to do. But if you can, bring the legs wide. And my belt's kind of in a circle, but you can have your belt just long like this if you want, but holding on to the sides of the belt, you can come forward. And of course, you may not be able to go very far. So for instance, with the huge belt here, I might just stay up high and then slowly come forward, really holding onto the belt as far as I can go. Now, I'm trying to get the ball of my foot on the belt, but you could use the heel as well. Slowly release that. So it's really nice to sit with the legs wide and really press the feet into the belt and hold on like this. I used to practice this pose in the men's class. I used to teach a lot just because generally they didn't have the forward fold in this. They might have the legs even closer. But even if you had the legs even closer, when you're holding that belt, I don't know if you can feel that, but I feel my legs more firmly press, and my back of my legs particularly firmly press into the ground. So I'm just going to go a little bit wider. And it's good to have the general thinking about belts is if you're okay in the back of the knee, in other words, you don't have hyperextended knees, you put it on your foot because most of us need to stretch out the back of the leg. If you have hyperextended knees, you put it down on the heel. But in your own practice, you can play with both of them and see which feels good. So I suppose your belt has to be a certain length in order to do this pose, because you have to be able to hold both sides of the belt. This is my shortest belt, and it seems to be working. Now, I've had people play with putting it around the big toes, because often we go forward holding the big toes. So see what happens if you put it between your big toes. You're going to have to work those toes a little bit to keep them from getting awkward. You still have to press through the feet. And then see if you can start to walk forward down the belt with your hands. That's another useful using of the belt, is just taking your time in a pose to walk down, and then maybe eventually you can actually hold those feet. But it's a nice way to begin feeling into that forward fold. And it really helps you ground this pose. Now, another way to use this belt in this pose would be to put it right here on the hips, and then you're pressing behind you to get a bit of that forward fold and trying to, and I'll show you from the other angle this so that you can see this. And we're starting to run out of time. Well, I'll be damned. Probably teach a couple of belt classes. So anyway, we'll finish with this pose. So if you're holding it like this and you bring it down to the floor, then you can really work on getting that length, especially in the thoracic spine, to get that chest lift. Instead of like rolling kind of like this, you can use it to find that length. And it really helps to ground those thighs. Slowly come up, and I was going to kind of show you an option. Well, I'll go ahead and do that as a way to cool down a little bit. An option to do a shoulder stand variation is to, you want the belt to be, measure it with your shoulders. You don't want it too tight or too loose. But the easiest way to put it on for most people is to put it on one arm and then lay back so it's above my elbow, and then put it down, and then you can lift the hips up and put it on the other side, and then put your hands under your hips, and you can come into a shoulder stand variation for a few breaths like so. The idea of the belt is to bring the arm underneath you so you can engage into the shoulder blades. If the arms are way out wide, it's much harder to feel that lift and that connection into the shoulder blades into the spine that can really support you in that pose. And I've been taught that pose with lots of props, so today I'm just showing you a variation with the belt without any blankets. Because if you've got issues in the shoulders or the neck, you might need extra support. So now finish taking a few more breaths in this pose. And then you can slowly ease your way into Shavasana in whatever shape or form your Shavasana takes today. You need to have the knees bent. You can have the knees bent. If you have something to put under your knees, you can do that. If you happen to have a chair close by, you can put your legs on the chair. And just notice as you're settling into Shavasana, how the belt was helpful to you today, or maybe how it wasn't helpful. Maybe I didn't take enough time to demonstrate or take poses long enough to feel into them. It's just a kind of a little taster of using the belt. That might assist you in posing. And notice you can soften your breath a little bit. And begin to feel more weight in your body. And you feel gravity just receiving the body. And you begin to feel the back side of your body widening more into the floor, into the yoga mat. Really spreading. And notice if there's a spot that doesn't want to let go or spread into gravity. Just take your breath or your imagined breath into that area. See if you can really spread it into gravity. See if you can feel the front part of your body softening into the back of your body. So the toes and the feet soften, fronts of the feet soften to the backs of the feet, the heels, the shins, knees, and thighs all softening to the backs of the legs. The front of the pelvis softens to the back of the pelvis. The belly softens back to the spine. Front of the rib cage softens to the back of the rib cage. Upper chest softens to the back of the shoulders. Throat softens back to the back of the neck. And the face is softening back to the ears and the back of the head. Perhaps your palms soften back to the backs of the hands. Top of the wrist softens to the back of the wrists. Inner forearm softens to the back of the forearm. Inner elbow softens to the point of the elbow. Upper arm soften back to the back of the arm. And the fronts of the shoulders soften to the backs of the shoulders. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath, bringing in a little bit more breath. Stretch into the body, into your fingers, your toes. Maybe you do a big stretch before you come up to sitting. And then when you come up to sitting, just notice how you are. Have a beautiful day or evening, and thank you for coming. Namaste.